Hi guys, so I welcome you all to today's session on 5 MCQs a day series which are running for ESI, that is Economics and Social Issues portion, which is relevant for RBI, NABARD and SEBI examinations 2019. The topic which we are going to cover in this particular video is the World Economic Situation and Prospects Report 2019, which has been very recently published, and also we are going to discuss the important points this report has brought out in the context of Indian economy. So here you can take a snapshot of the relevance of this particular series as well as the different courses which we are presently running for the different competitive examinations. So for SEBI Grade A, this is relevant for the phase 2, and the same goes for RBI Grade B, which is again relevant for phase number 2. And with regard to NABARD Grade A, this is relevant for both phase 1 and phase 2. Now before proceeding forward, let me also quickly tell you about the results that we have got in the past few years. So we have started this initiative of guiding students for these competitive exams, and we have been blessed with some of the very amazing results. So if we take a look at the RBI Grade B 2017 exam, we have got 27 selections in the final list, and in NABARD Grade A 2017 there were 11 selections in the final list, and in the NABARD Grade A 2018, 27 of our students, they made it to the final list, and out of the total generalist seats, which were only 46. And in RBI Grade B 2018, 287 plus interview calls have been received by our students, and the final result of this is still awaited. So let's come back to our topic and start our discussion on World Economic Situation and Prospects Report 2019 and the implication for India. So let's start with the first question. World Economic Situation and Prospects 2019 report is a joint product of. Options are United Nations Department of Economic and Social Services, that is UNDESA, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, that is UNCTAD, International Monetary Fund, that is IMF. And the options are 1 and 2, 1 and 3, 2 and 3, all of the above, or none of the above. So friends, to answer this question, we must be aware about the World Economic Situation and the Prospects Report 2019, which has been very recently issued. So this is United Nations flagship annual publication on expected trends in the global economy. So this is something that we should remember, that this relates to United Nations. And if I talk about the agencies which are involved in publication of this particular report, then this report is a joint product of different UN agencies. So first one is United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, that is UNDESA. Next is United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, that is UNCTAD. So these are the two main agencies involved in the publication of this report. And besides these organizations, 5 United Nations regional commissions, they are also involved. So they are the Economic Commission for Africa, Economic Commission for Europe, Economic Commission for Latin America and Caribbean, Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific, and the Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia. So these are the different agencies or organizations which are involved in the publication of World Economic Situation and Prospects Report. So now we can easily answer this question, that this report is a joint product of UNDESA and UNCTAD. So the answer is going to be option number 1, that is 1 and 2. Next question. United Nations report World Economic Situation and Prospects 2019 estimates that global growth is expected to remain steady at a dash in 2019 and 2020. So we have to tell the percentage of global growth which is predicted by this particular report, World Economic Situation and Prospects 2019. The options are 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, or none of the above. So to answer this question, we must be aware about the key findings of this very important report which has been very recently issued. That is World Economic Situation and Prospects Report 2019. So we must be aware what this report has to say in the context of global economy. So this report estimates that global growth is expected to remain steady at 3% in 2019 and 2020. So for 2019 and 2020, the next 2 years, the growth rate globally is expected to remain steady at 3%. And this is after an expansion of 3.1% in 2018. So in 2018, there has been an expansion, but in the next 2 years, there is going to be a slight decline and it's going to remain steady at 3%. Further, as the impulse from fiscal stimulus in 2018 wanes or declines, growth in United States is projected to decelerate to 2.5% in 2019 and 2% in 2020. So since the US economy is very much interlinked to the rest of the world and any decline in the US has implications for the entire world. So with regard to the growth in US, it has to say that it is projected to decline. So this is something which is worrisome for the whole global economy. Further, with regard to European Union, it says that it would witness a steady growth of 2%, even though the risks are tilted to the downside, including a potential fallout from Brexit. So with regard to EU, it says there are different sorts of risks which are there, but then again the growth is expected to remain steady at 2%. Now, with regard to China, it says China's growth is expected to moderate from 6.6% to 6.3% in 2019. Further, it says large commodity exporting countries such as Brazil, Nigeria, Russia, they are projected to see a moderate pickup in growth in 2019-20. So these countries, they can expect a pickup. And further, the report expresses concern over the sustainability of the global economic growth because there are different challenges from different fronts. Financial challenges are there, social challenges are there, and environmental challenges, they are also there. So now we can easily answer this question that this United Nations report of World Economic Situation and Prospects 2019 estimates that global growth is expected to remain steady at 3% in 2019 and 2020. So the answer to this is going to be option number 1, that is 3%. Next question. Which of the following is not one of the challenges as listed in the World Economic Situation and Prospects Report 2019? Options are: per capita incomes would stagnate or grow only marginally in 2019 in several parts of Africa, Western Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Eradicating poverty by 2030 will require with double-digit growth in Africa and steep reduction in income inequality. Simultaneous appearance of several important risks endanger the efforts to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. All of the above are challenges listed in the report, none of the above. So friends, this United Nations report, World Economic Situation and Prospects 2019, it has listed various challenges which are there in attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals. So we are all aware that the United Nations has set this agenda for sustainable goals to be achieved by 2030, but this report has estimated different number of challenges which are there in attaining those goals. So these challenges which are listed, they include: economic growth around the world is uneven and it is failing to reach where it is most needed. So many countries, they are still deprived of the economic growth. The per capita incomes, that is income per average population, so this is expected to stagnate or grow only marginally in 2019 in several parts of the Africa, Western Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean. So again, the economic growth, it remains elusive. Then, even where the per capita income is strong, the economic growth is driven by core industrial and urban regions, leaving peripheral and rural areas behind. So even if some countries, they are growing, but then again in those countries only the industrial and urban regions, they are growing. The rural regions, they are not growing. So this remains a challenge. Further, the report notes that eradicating poverty by 2030 will require double-digit growth in Africa and will require steep reductions in income inequality. So this again is a very big challenge to achieve this double-digit growth. So this dream, it remains a distant possibility in the current scenario. Further, There are other risks which include escalation of trade policy disputes among the different countries, especially among the US and the China. Financial instabilities linked to elevated levels of debt. So as the levels of debt of the countries increase, this can link to financial instability. The climate risks, they are also rising, and the world is going to experience increasing number of extreme weather events. So these are some again very important challenges. So the confluence of all these risks is clouding, and it may severely disrupt the economic activity, and it can significantly damage our longer term development projects. Further, the report notes that simultaneous appearance of several important risks, it endangers the efforts to achieve the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So all these challenges which are appearing simultaneously, they can significantly hamper our 2030 agenda for sustainable development. And this agenda, it contained 17 specific goals which were to be achieved to promote prosperity and social well-being along with the protection of environment. So now we have discussed a lot about the different challenges put forth in this report. So now we can easily answer that all of these are the challenges which have been discussed in the report. So the answer is going to be option number 4. Next question. According to World Economic Situation and Prospects 2019, India's GDP growth is expected to accelerate to dash in 2019-20. Options are 6.6%, 7.1%, 7.6%, 8.3%, or none of the above. So if you talk about the key facts which have been discussed in the context of India in this report, then the important facts, they include India's GDP growth is expected to accelerate to 7.6% in 2019-20 from an estimated 7.4% in the current fiscal ending March 2019. And further, this growth rate may come down to 7.4% a year later. So again, there are challenges, again, there are signs of deceleration. And in 2019-20, the growth is expected to increase to 7.6%. Further, India will march ahead as the world's fastest growing large economy in 2019 as well as 2020, much ahead of China. So this is something of a good news for India, that India is going to surpass China in getting this tag of world's fastest growing large economy. Further, it says that India's growth is driven by robust private consumption, expansionary fiscal stance of the government, and the benefits from the previous reforms which have been introduced, and recovery in the private investment. They are crucial for lifting the medium term growth. So all these areas, they must be focused upon if we have to increase the growth levels in India. So now we can easily answer this question, that as per this report, India's GDP growth is expected to accelerate to 7.6% in 2019-20. So the answer is going to be option number 3. Next question. According to World Economic Situation and Prospects 2019, which among the following countries are more vulnerable to stress due to tightening fiscal conditions? So this one is more on technical lines, and even if you do not know this one, you need not worry. You just need to take a look at what this report has to say on this context. The options are countries with a sustainable amount of dollar denominated debt, countries with high current account for or fiscal deficits, countries with large external financing needs, all of the above or none of the above. So this World Economic Situation and Prospects Report 2019, it discusses various challenges before the global economy. And the important challenges, they can be broadly grouped into 3 main categories, and they include trade tensions, tightening fiscal conditions, and climate risks. Now let us take a look at each of these challenges one by one. So if we take a look at the trade tensions part, so the report says that the global growth, it moderated at 3.8% in 2018 against the growth rate of 5.3% in 2017. So this indicates that there are global trade tensions which need to be taken care of. Further, the stimulus measures and direct subsidies, they have offset much of the direct economic impacts on the China and the US. So different countries, they are coming up with stimulus and they are coming up with different subsidies, which again may hamper the economies. Further, if these trade tensions they continue for a prolonged period, they may severely disrupt the global economy. So if the governments they keep on using these stimulus measures or subsidies to promote trade, so these kinds of measures they can severely disrupt the global economy in the long run. And the spillover effects of the trade tensions, especially between the China and the US, it can spread to all over the world, and they can disrupt the global value supply chains, particularly in the Eastern Asia. So this is about the trade tensions part. Next is tightening fiscal conditions. So if the fiscal conditions they tighten, if the governments they just control their expenditure, this could result in a rapid rise in interest rate, because this can squeeze the money supply in the economy. On the other hand, the strengthening of the US dollar, it could exacerbate emerging market fragilities, leading to a heightened risk of debt distress. So this could ultimately strengthening of the US dollar. If you have taken loans in US dollar, this could ultimately impact your payouts, and it can create a situation of debt distress. Further, all these risks they are further aggravated by the global trade tensions, which we have just discussed in the previous slide. And again, there are factors relating to monetary policy adjustment in developed economies, commodity price shocks, as well as domestic political and economic disruptions. So these all they are hampering the global economy. And the countries which are having substantial amount of dollar denominated debt, high current account or fiscal deficit, large external financing needs, and limited policy buffers. So these are the countries in which everything is not proper, in which there is something which is there which can pinch them in the future. So these countries, they are the ones which are more vulnerable to stress due to tightening fiscal conditions. Now next it talks about the climate related risks. So it says that the climate change risks they necessitate that there should be a fundamental shift in the way the world powers economic strategies they are working. So we have to integrate the economic decision making with the climate risks to ensure that the emissions, the global emissions, they are reduced. Further, the tools for achieving the integrations, they would be carbon pricing measures, energy efficiency regulations like introducing minimum performance standards and building codes, and at the same time reduction of socially inefficient fossil fuel subsidy regimes. So we have to eliminate the subsidies which are being given by the governments on the use of fossil fuels and ultimately promote carbon free economy. So guys, now we can easily answer this question that according to this particular report, all these countries, they are vulnerable to tightening fiscal conditions. So answer is going to be option number 4, that is all of the above. So guys, this was all about our discussion for today. If you have any query, you can drop us a mail at hello@edutap.co.in. Or if you want to know more about our courses, you can visit our website at www.edutap.co.in. Or in case of any query, you want to get into touch with us personally, you can call us at 8146 207 241. So friends, if you enjoyed watching this video, please like the same, share it with your friends, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. And in case you wish to get regular updates from us, you can even join our Telegram channel, the link of which is given here as well as in the description of this particular video. Now, an additional benefit which you can get by joining this Telegram channel is that you can fetch the PDFs of all the discussions which we are doing on YouTube through this particular Telegram channel, which is going to be very helpful for you in revision. So thank you friends, happy learning.